Twilight Zone. It's July 23rd, 1982, Santa Clarita, California. The set of The Twilight Zone is in the heat of production as cameras roll on a Vietnam War sequence directed by John Landis. Actor Vic Morrow is in character, a man carrying two children through a river as helicopters chase overhead. Beside him are Micah Dinla, just 7 years old, and Renee Shin-Yi Chen, 6 years old. It was the fifth take of the film's emotional climax, and they were 2 hours behind schedule. While rushing to finish the scene, and with the chaos of explosions, something went terribly wrong. As the helicopter hovers just 25 feet above ground, an explosion detonates too close. The blast disables the rotor blades. The aircraft lurches sideways, losing control. In seconds, the helicopter crashes directly onto the actors below. Vic Morrow and Micah Dinla are killed instantly by the blades. Renee Chen is crushed beneath the falling wreckage. The set turns from a normal movie scene into something straight out of a horror film. Crew members scream. Cameras keep rolling. News of the tragedy spreads fast, sparking outrage across the country. The film was eventually completed and released in 1983, with the segment kept but heavily edited. The damage was done. 3 lives lost. A reputation destroyed, and a lasting reminder that in filmmaking, when safety is ignored, tragedy becomes part of the story itself. Shark! In 1969, a man named Jose Marco drove into the waters off of the coast of Mexico, surrounded by cameras, directors, and a promise that it was all fake. They were filming a low-budget adventure movie called Shark! A simple plot, a smuggler, a woman, and the ocean's most vicious predator. But the production wanted something real, something no audience could question. So they brought in live sharks. The crew guaranteed safety. The sharks were supposed to be drugged, slow, and harmless. But the sea doesn't follow scripts. When Marco entered the water, the shark was already circling. Cameras rolled, but the sharks attacked for real. Fast, clean, and brutal. The animal tore into him before anyone could react. By the time safety divers could reach him, Jose Marco was dead. The footage existed for some time. Rumors circled that it was used in the final cuts, though it was supposedly removed later. The studio renamed the film Shark from its original title, Kane, hoping the controversy would sell tickets. It worked. The movie made headlines. The director made a fortune. The crew got their praise for the film's realism. Jose Marco, a stuntman, fisherman, an extra, became one of the first people to die for a shark movie. Years before Jaws. Years before Hollywood learned that realism had a body count. The Crow. It was March 31st, 1993, Wilmington, North Carolina. On the set of The Crow, cameras rolled inside a dark, rain-soaked apartment. Actor Brandon Lee, the 28-year-old son of the martial arts legend Bruce Lee, was filming a scene where his character is shot by a group of thugs. It was supposed to be a routine take, one he's done many times before, but this time something was wrong. The production had been using real firearms for realism, loaded with blanks meant to fire without danger. Earlier, that same revolver had been used for close-up shots with dummy rounds. Bullets that look real but contain no gunpowder. To save time and money, safety checks were skipped. No one realized that a bullet had become lodged inside the barrel. When the gun was reloaded for the next scene, the force propelled the stuck bullet forward, making it act as a real bullet. It hit Brandon in the abdomen, and he instantly collapsed on the scene. Crew members froze. The director shouted cut, thinking it was part of the act. Then the panic set in. Brandon Lee was rushed to the New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Surgeons worked for hours, but the injury was too severe. He was pronounced dead later that day, at just 28 years old. A rising star gone too soon. A film forever tied to a loss. And a reminder that even in fiction, danger can be all too real. Return of the Musketeers. It was September 19th, 1988 in Toledo, Spain. The sun was low over the Tagus River, painting the stone bridges gold. On the set, the cast and crew of The Return of the Musketeers were preparing to film one of the movie's final scenes, a chase on horseback across an old bridge. Among them was 54-year-old Roy Kinnear. He was an actor who was known for doing his own stunts. The scene should have been nothing new for him. The weather was bad that day. The stones were slick from rain, the bridge narrow and uneven. Kinnear mounted his horse as cameras rolled. The director yelled, "Action!" The riders galloped forward, swords drawn and cloaks flying in the wind. halfway across, Kinnear's horse slipped. The animal stumbled, launching him sideways into the stone wall. The impact instantly shattered his body. The scene stopped instantly. Crew members rushed to his side as he laid motionless on the cobblestones, gasping for air. He was taken by helicopter to a hospital in Madrid. Hours later, while undergoing emergency surgery, Roy Kinnear went into cardiac arrest. He was pronounced dead later that night. When The Return of the Musketeers premiered a year later, it carried a small message before the credits faded to black. For Roy, a few letters for a man whose laughter had once filled every set he walked onto. Triple X. It was April 4th, 2002, in Prague, Czech Republic. The city skyline stretched behind the Charles Bridge. It was a beautiful scene over the river. On a quiet stretch of the Vltava, cameras were being set up for one of the final stunts of Triple X, a high-speed parasailing sequence meant to show Vin Diesel's character escaping across the rooftops. The man in the harness wasn't Vin Diesel. It was 45-year-old Harry O'Connor, a former Navy SEAL turned professional stunt pilot and skydiver. He spent years doing the impossible for other people's movies. That morning was supposed to be another routine shot. The setup was simple. O'Connor would glide down a zipline behind a speedboat, fly past a bridge tower, and land safely in the river below. They'd already filmed the sequence once without issue. The director wanted one last take just for extra footage. The engines roared, the lines tightened, O'Connor launched into the air, soaring above the water as the cameras followed. Everything looked perfect. Until it didn't. A sudden crosswind pushed him off course. He drifted closer to the bridge than expected. Crew members shouted for him to pull up, and he tried. But there wasn't enough time. He struck the bridge at full speed. The impact was immediate and fatal. His body fell into the river below as rescue boats rushed toward him. He was pronounced dead on scene. The footage from that take was actually destroyed. The first take was the one that made it into the final cut. Ironically, the take that killed O'Connor wasn't even necessary. Audiences were unaware of O'Connor's death during production. Harry O'Connor lived his life behind the camera and died doing what the movie only pretended to do. Top Gun. It was September 16, 1985, off the coast of California. The sky was clear, the ocean was calm. In a small red biplane flew Art Scholl, 54-year-old stunt pilot, one of Hollywood's best cameramen in the air. Known for his precision, he worked on some of the best movies at the time, Indiana Jones and The Blue Yonder. That morning, he was filming aerial scenes for Top Gun. His job was to capture a flat spin, a difficult maneuver where the plane stalls and spirals towards the ground. It was routine for Scholl. He took off from Miramar and climbed 3,000 meters. Over the radio, his voice was steady. Cameras rolled as the plane began to spin. Then, something went horribly wrong. Scholl's final transmission came through. "I've got a problem here." Seconds later, radar contact was lost. Witnesses watched as his plane nosedived into the Pacific, disappearing beneath the water. Search teams scoured the area for days, but neither the plane or Scholl was ever found. A year later, Top Gun hit theaters. The film became a global hit, filled with all kinds of aerial shots Art Scholl had dedicated his life capturing. At the very end, one line appeared on screen. "In memory of Art Scholl," a quiet tribute to the man who filmed flight and never returned.